Well, hello and welcome to the A Trip to the Moon podcast. My name's Matt Jones. Craig Perkins joins me, and we are looking back on a disappointing afternoon if you are a Tranmere fan, because Tranmere have lost 2-0 to Mansfield in a League Two clash, which further dents any remaining playoff aspirations. Craig, great to have you on. Let's just take your opinions first on the performance.
Just moments before you click the live button there, Matt. We were just saying, usually in defeat, you can maybe scrape together a couple of positives. This afternoon, I don't think there was any. It was so poor from start to finish. I struggle to remember a more disappointing an afternoon at Prenton Park, certainly. Since we got back into the Football League, where we were just devoid of ideas up top. There was injuries going into the game. Morris was out, as well as Hemmings, and that left us needing to sort of be a little bit more different up top. Mumbongo and Saunders started. Neither of them did anything of any note whatsoever. And I was on the live score app just coming home in the car before, and no shots on target yet again. Following on from Tuesday night's game at Bradford, Mansfield registered 6, I think it was, or maybe even 7 shots on goal. It was poor, very poor. The goals we conceded again were shocking. The goalkeeper was changed, understandably so, from Tuesday night. Hewlett's, after his dismal evening at Valley Parade, made way for Joe Murphy. Joe didn't do anything wrong, actually gave us a little bit more leadership at the back, as you would expect. We saw plenty of that from Joe last season. But could he do anything with the goals? I'd probably say not. But a really disappointing, desperately poor afternoon. And let's be honest, it pretty much puts pay to any sort of promotion hopes we might have already, with 15 games still to go, I think.
Well, that is the worry, isn't it? And we'll look at the league table and everything that goes with it in a moment or two. Another game without forcing a shot on target. Another game where conceding the first goal seems to completely kick the wind out of any sails.
Yeah, it does. And that's been the story of the last 18 months, really. Mickey's always stressed in his interviews, whether it be before the game or after, the importance of getting that first goal. And I've been saying all season, this Tranmere team is chronically short of belief. It's chronically short of leadership. The moment the opposition take the lead, you wouldn't put any, if you were a betting person whatsoever, you wouldn't put any money on Tranmere getting back in the game. And, it's just such an easy afternoon for Mansfield. We didn't ask any questions of them, and that sounded like Mickey now. But we didn't in any way put them under pressure. We didn't force their goalkeeper into any difficult moments. But, yeah, the moment we fall a goal behind, time and time again, you might as well just get up, go jump in your car and go home, knowing that we're not going to get anything off the match. Rewind to when we were in the National League, when we went a goal behind. There was always that resilience to Tranmere. There was always good senior players in that team that would rally the troops, that would get us going. I don't see anything in this starting 11 that gets the team going, and it's very poor, very disappointing.
Disappointing is one word to describe it. Talk to me about what the atmosphere was like at Prenton Park.
Do you know what I was saying to John, my stepdad, who I go to the games with? We took our seats a little bit earlier than we usually do, so we were about 2:30. We got into the town paddock. The away end was filling up. It was buoyant. There was singing, and you could see that the opposition players, even before kickoff, had a spring in their step. They'd had a great result away from home at Carlisle and midweek Mansfield, where I think they were 4-0 up at half time and ended up winning by that same margin. You look to I looked to my right. I saw the Kop. It was very, very flat right the way throughout the game. Understandably so, because there was nothing coming from the players at all. If nothing's coming, if there's nothing to get excited about, then the crowd's going to be flat. The atmosphere was desperately flat all afternoon. And that's not a criticism of the fans. The fans feed off what they're being served up on the pitch. And if what's been served up is complete dross, Matt, they're not good. You can't make any excuses for it whatsoever. It was really, really bad.
It's a worry, isn't it? Because Mansfield brought a lot of fans over for the game, and that has really actually swelled an attendance that was probably pretty poor from a home point of view, and that probably describes quite a lot as to where Tranmere are at the moment as well. How concerned should we be with where Rovers are?
In the context of the season, it depends what the aspirations are. We're on 41 points, correct me if I'm wrong. So we've probably got enough to not be looking too far down the table with any worries in that sense. But in terms of actually getting an effect in the top, we're just talking top half of the league now. We're not even talking about getting in the top 7. We are painfully short. And yes, there's still 15 games to go. But whereas our away form last season, and indeed this has been terrible, our home form's dropping off now. So we're struggling to pick up points. And you do worry whether the season's just going to peter out, and that's going to affect things moving forward. Because if people get disheartened, and you've got season card renewals coming up in the next few months as well, I'll be completely honest. I couldn't wait to get away from Prenton Park this afternoon. It was so poor. And all you can hear all afternoon is the away fans singing and taunting, and you just don't want to be anywhere near it. But there was nothing after, absolutely nothing whatsoever this afternoon. And I usually try and scrape through some positives, but I couldn't think of any today, to be honest.
I think the big concern has to be that the home form is now tapering off. Maybe I'm being a bit hasty in saying it's tapering off, given that Leyton Orient and Salford have both left Prenton Park empty-handed in recent weeks. But they have now lost at home to Mansfield, having also suffered those defeats on the road to your Stockports, your Doncasters, your Bradfords of this world. Four consecutive away defeats, and now the loss at home as well. And the home form has been the backbone of keeping Tranmere up at the right end of the table, or near enough the right end of the table for the last few months. If that does fall away considerably, then they're going to be nowhere near. And the gap now up to the top 7 is 8 points, which, it was only 4 points last Saturday night. It's now 8. That's a sizable jump. That if you can do that in 2 games, yeah, you can close it in 2 games, but there's a lot of teams to catch up on above them.
Yeah, there is, and even after the defeat to it wasn't Doncaster, was it Bradford City on Tuesday? It's the pre-game sort of positivity. I was saying to John, well, if we could win here today, you look at the run of games we have. Okay, Stevenage away is a tough match, but then we have Hartlepool, Crawley, Hartlepool. And Gillingham, all them 3 sides in the bottom 4. You thought if we could have got a result today, then there was an opportunity to build some momentum. But this has been going on, Matt, since last season. The poor away form. We had 16 wins at Prenton Park last season. We were pretty formidable at home on the whole. We've not been as good on in front of our home fans this season, and unfortunately, our league position very much reflects the way the results have gone. And, we deserve to be where we are at this current moment in time. And you look at that gap, as you rightly say, 8 points, that's an awful lot of ground to now try and make up. And, if you were at the game today, you only have to look at the performance and also the lack of reaction from Bradford and from the game before it as well. It was dreadful. It really was poor. And, it's going to take an awful lot now to sort of kick the season going.
It certainly is. We are live streaming this as a bit of a trial. Won't be able to live stream after a game because it's just not plausible in terms of our timings and things like that. But thank you to those of you who are joining us at the moment. Let's talk about some of the stuff that happened pre-match then, because there were a number of changes to the starting lineup. Some of them enforced, some of them were very much by Mickey's own choosing. And one of those was to bring Joe Murphy back into goal for Tranmere. So he started for the first time this season. In doing so, becoming Tranmere's oldest ever player. I'm not sure if you congratulate someone for being old and still playing football, but Joe at 41 years of age surpasses Ian Goodison's record by 18 days as Tranmere's oldest ever player. Obviously, Goody still holds the record for an outfield player. Was that the right call, do you think, to bring him in and to take Huvel out of the firing line?
Yeah, in my opinion, absolutely the right thing to do. You don't just look at what happened in midweek at Bradford City. There was a pretty forgettable moment at Stockport on the 4th of February as well, and I think I'd have done exactly the same if I was Mickey. I just think that it wouldn't have done him any favours whatsoever putting him in today, especially in front of a packed away end. If he'd have dropped another howler, how do you come back from that? He did a similar thing with Ross Doohan last season. I seem to remember Doohan had a couple of difficult matches where he made some big mistakes, and Joe came in for the last dozen games or so, and that proved to be the right call on that occasion. But now, as he said before, when Ethan Bristow is like taking the ball down the wing, Joe Murphy was playing in the Worthington Cup final 3 years before Bristow was even born. So it just goes to show the age gap between him and some of the outfield players. But no, fair play to Joe. Good to see him back in the team. And as I say, I think it's just what we need this moment in time. I really don't think he could have done anything with the goals. I haven't seen them back, but be interesting what happens moving forward, whether he puts his faith back in the young keeper or not.
It will. I can't imagine he'll be coming back into the side anytime soon, because you can't do this thing on a whim for one game, can you? It has to be considered over a period of time.
Yeah, it does. And as I said last season, he made his decision with Ross Doohan, probably March, April time, Matt. And Joe finished the season for the last 10 or 12 games. Very solid goalkeeper. Goalkeepers play into their late 30s, early 40s quite regularly. Seem to remember one of the best keepers I saw live was Brad Friedel, and he was playing at age 42, I seem to remember. So, he'd be a safe pair of hands, if nothing else.
So on to the other things that happened pre-match. The news that Turnbull was missing out through injury. I think we kind of knew that would be the case anyway. Kieran Morris didn't recover from the knock that he picked up at Bradford. And no Kane Hemmings either. Like him or loathe him, if you take Turnbull, Morris and Hemmings out of your team, that is going to have a big impact on things, isn't it, Craig? Regardless of how well or not you think Hemmings has been playing, you've taken the entire spine out of your team pretty much there, haven't you? And that's quite hard to bounce back from or to replace within the 11.
Well, it is, and certainly with the case of Kieran Morris, I don't think Kieran's had the best of seasons by his standards, but he is, and I've said this many times, he is by far one of our most creative players. He's always a miss when he's not in the 11. And even Kane Hemmings, he's had a really difficult time of late. He's coming for a lot of criticism. His lack of goals, his lack of movement up top, and what have you. It gave an opportunity today to Mombongo playing up top with Harvey Saunders, and that didn't make anything any better. So it's not just one player who deserves to cop the flak. We just don't have the quality. We don't have the strength and depth in order to compete at in the top half of League Two. I think that's what it proved today. I think Jordan Turnbull is a miss. he's been relatively solid since he signed. So yeah, those three players were a miss to a point, but certainly Morris. You take Kieran Morris out of Tranmere's team, and we're not the same team.
No, you're absolutely right there. What did you make of the young lad from Newcastle making his? I think it was his first start, wasn't it? Jay Turner-Cook.
Quiet. If I'm being honest, he was playing out wide. He struggled to get into the match. It's early days for him. He's here to play games, as Mickey always says, with any new addition. But didn't really see a great deal of involvement in the game for him. But will he be in next week? Quite possibly. But no, again, it's a tough afternoon for him, as it was for all the young players. I just think with the team we were up against, a lot of experience in that Mansfield town side. Really, really difficult for our young players.
It certainly was. Let's go through some of the messages that we got after the match then. Some tweets, some messages on Patreon, and numerous others as well. David O'Connell got in touch. He said, Mansfield, the 18th of February 2023, £22 for 0 shots on goal. So that sums up how David felt about a fairly miserable afternoon in terms of the results and the football. What else have we got? Max Davis says that we won't go any further whilst Mickey Mellon is in charge. We've had loads of people get in touch, but my internet is currently failing me, which is ironic given that we're actually streaming this via the means of the internet. Chris Hopewell, that was simply dreadful. He says the podcast will no doubt be a good listen after that performance. Not entirely sure it's a good listen, but you never know. James Ashcroft, Mansfield, with probably the most complete performance all season. No creativity from us and still can't defend set pieces. Long balls into Burton's second half were never going to work. Murphy stopped it from being at least 4-0. Same story week in, week out. Rich Davis, that's the level we need to be at to be in the playoffs. They look solid, 4 strong attacking players, organised and comfortable 2-0 winners. Joe was very unlucky to be on the losing side. Well done to him. Mike Tolley says, the worst I've seen since the opening game against Stevenage. There's only one man for the review tomorrow, and that's Paul Ritchie. Well, we had Craig pre-booked, and Craig's just as good, I can assure you of that. Gareth Hay, we're a very poor footballing team in a very poor league. Recruitment has been awful for years. Owners with rose-tinted glasses on. Players not good enough. Manager stubborn. Coaches have to be questioned also. Club stale. Fans turning off. Losing hope. I fear for us. Gareth isn't very happy with what he saw at Prenton Park this afternoon. And, well, he certainly isn't the only one. That's kind of just a little run through of some of the tweets that we got after the game. Tom Boyce got in touch as well. He said it for weeks now. It's just very sad. I don't doubt the chairman and manager care, but if they think we're doing the right things to develop players, entertain fans as well, someone needs to have a strong word. Todd White says, expected to get beat when I saw the team, but what I can't forgive is the lack of effort. I watched one player, I won't mention his name, turn his back on the ball more than once, so he didn't receive a pass. It was disgraceful. There are lots of people very unhappy with the performance, Craig, and I mean, that's completely understandable given the result. Are they, has what been said there, a fair reflection of how you saw things?
100%. Absolutely 100%. In defeat, sometimes you can maybe get the odd overreaction from fans, in tweets and things like that, or anything on the socials. But you can't defend that today. It was abysmal from start to finish. And as I say, when you're playing at home and you've had a single shot on goal in the whole 90 minutes. As soon as that second goal went in, you just knew that there was nothing coming back from Tranmere. And as I say, this is now the away form filtering into the matches at Prenton Park, and that's the big worry for me. And okay, if we're not going to be in the playoffs at the end of the season, you want to at least entertain at home. You want to at least give your fans that little bit of fight and desire and determination. There was nothing, absolutely zilch today to get the fans going. So 100%, I understand how the fans feel, and I completely echo all the tweets that have come in there. 100%.
What was interesting was what Mickey had to say post-match, and I don't know how much of it you have seen, Craig. But my friend Carlos works at Radio Merseyside, so obviously they get the post-match audio sent back to them from Derek Jones. He sent us a message after the game, said that Mickey Mellon has said pissed off 6 times in the first 4 minutes of his interview. I've had to get the old bleeps out, which I haven't had to do for a while. He was clearly unimpressed with what he saw. I did see a few other quotes as well. He said, I understand why people are pissed off. I'm pissed off. Those goals we've conceded will piss anyone off. The manager's not happy, and that's not the place that you want to be. I mean, obviously you want him to be unhappy after a defeat, but he is. Those are the kind of quotes that I've never seen from Mickey Mellon before, put it that way.
Yeah, I get that. But one of the words that Mickey often uses in his post and pre-match interviews, Matt, is accountability. So, accountability lies with the manager. The manager picks the team. He sets them up. He works on the training ground. He does with his staff all the things that we do not see week in, week out on the training ground. So, accountability rests at his door and his door only, in my opinion. So you can come up with all the expletives you want and try and sort of appease people with sort of choice language. But ultimately, it's the man who writes the programme notes on page 3 of the programme that is responsible week in, week out. So I don't really think that's going to wash much longer, to be perfectly honest. He's been afforded more time than most managers would get at football clubs, particularly in the lower leagues. I'd love to know what the average tenure of a manager in the EFL is these days. I can't imagine it's more than 18 months. So you look at the hire and fire culture, which I don't support. I always like to see managers giving a go, but Mickey's had plenty of time. So, how much longer it washes with fans, I think fans have already started to make their mind up on things, to be perfectly honest.
It's that old adage that the England cricket team are trying to bring in now, in that they say they would rather give a guy one game too many than one game too few. By that meaning, they would rather give someone time to get things right as opposed to drop them and it be too soon for them to be dropped and they actually go on to be pretty good at what they were doing. And we know that Mickey's got a lot of history. He's won 2 promotions with this club in the past. He's won promotions at Fleetwood. He's won promotions at or a promotion at Shrewsbury as well. So there is there's history there. I still think, I've said this all along, I still think that I don't think the promotion was ever the aim this year. I just don't think it was. I think it was always about getting these new players, your Dewans, your Nevitts, your Bristows, and so on, another year of first team football and then selling them and making money on them and then trying to kick on next year with your Bristows, your McAleers and your whoever else is really going for promotion next year. I think the big issue is, though, that the league is terrible. League Two this year is the poorest standard of League Two that I've seen it. And I think the club have seen that. It's my opinion only. And I think they've thought, there's a chance here that they could go up. There's a chance here to break into that top 7 and not much is going to be needed to get into that top 7. So they've invested some money in January. The manager has come out, Mickey Mellon has come out and said that the aim is promotion, to try and get promoted after the signing of Turner Cook on deadline day. But the form since deadline day has not been anywhere near good enough to get you around those promotion positions. And it's almost kind of a rod for the own back, because I do think that this year was about consolidation and trying to push on next year and really go for it next year in a similar way to what Forest Green did, because Forest Green were clearly the benchmark with the wing backs coming in over the summer and whatever else and starting the season with 3-5-2. I think that was the plan, to consolidate, to get a good team and then have a real good go next year. But then I think the goalposts might have slightly shifted in January and that isn't helping.
Yeah, quite possibly. But again, speaking to fans and pre-match and what have you, there is a criticism that and there's a question asked as to whether Mickey Mellon is the right person to be head of a sort of development side, to be that sort of person. He likes his own tried and tested old-fashioned formations. He is stubborn. And we've seen that plenty of times down the years with players that haven't really had much of a chance at Tranmere and have gone elsewhere and kicked on. So I go back to what I said just a moment ago. He's had more time. He's been afforded more time than what most managers would have had in other football league clubs. So put it this way: come 46 games, and we finished 16th in League Two. There aren't any excuses to justify that whatsoever. And you can't try and sell season tickets off the back of that was always going to be a transitional season, in my opinion. But that's just my take.
It's more difficult to call it a transitional season as well, when some of those young players who you'd hope to be transitioning into first team promotion winners aren't playing. Doohan's obviously been sold, so that's fair enough. They've kind of done the job with Doohan, brought him in, sold him, made some money. But Hughes is out on loan at Chester. McAleer's out on loan up in Scotland as well. So those, apart from Bristow, the young players that model was kind of built around aren't really playing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there was other games earlier in the season where we were stuck with the same rigid formation, and there was a failure to mix things up. And you thought, well, okay, maybe try and play McAleer off Hemmings, and there was a complete reluctance and unwillingness to do that. And it was like almost as if he'd made his mind up that player, Rhys McAleer, was never going to be good enough and was sent back into Scotland. And and again, Rhys Hughes, I'd seen him a couple of times in the EFL Trophy. Ben Hockenhull, again, put in a good performance at Crewe in that competition. And he's ended up down in non-league football, albeit on loan now as well. Been told he's not ready, but you can back judgments like that up when results are favourable. But when results are completely terrible, what they are at the moment, then it's a lot more difficult to do so, in my opinion.
We'll wrap up in a moment or two. Just a few more things I want to go through. Mumbongo started today. Some people would have preferred, I think, to see Burton involved from the start as opposed to coming on as a sub. What did you make of that?
Yeah, you get the feeling it's with Joel Mumbongo, if it's not going to happen now, then it's probably never going to happen in terms of him affecting something at the football club. He's a big lad. He can put himself about, but he was painfully lacking up top today. He looked lost. Came off, understandably so. Young Jake Burton come on. And Jake's someone that we've developed as a football club. He's come through our academy system. So, me personally, I'd like to see more of Burton. But now, I think Mumbongo will, at this moment in time, fall very much in the category of James El-Arabi and Manny Desirui, unfortunately. But no, he offered nothing all afternoon.
I think your signal might be just breaking up a touch, Craig, but that seems like a good point to which to wrap this up because, not a particularly fun review to do, I have to say, after a 2-0 defeat. But there's some big games coming up now, aren't you? And that's something we just have to very quickly look towards because the fixtures don't get any kinder. There's Stevenage on the horizon, and obviously that will be a tough game, and it's away from home. There's Crawley on the horizon. That's a almost must win, if you like, really, given how poor Crawley have been at times this year. But then there's, the one thing that I would say, Craig, is that after Stevenage next Saturday, in terms of the fixture list, in theory, it gets a little bit easier. Crawley at home, Hartlepool at home, Gillingham away. Gillingham have been much better of late since they got bought out, I grant you that. Newport at home, Colchester away, who've improved a touch, and then Harrogate away. That's your March. Sorry, Harrogate at home. That's your March. Come through that March, and there's no reason why Tranmere can't pick up 4 or 5 wins in that March, and that could propel them up the table. It's just a question of how much damage is done before then. But that March, and the last game in February against Crawley is going to be, I think, probably defining to the season and to the future.
Yeah, it is. Stevenage are flying. No one expected them to still be up in the top three come the back end of February. Fair play to them for that. But you look after, as you rightly say, Matt, the Crawley at home on the Tuesday night, followed by Hartlepool at home on the 4th of March. They're must-win games. Given how poor we are away from home, then you'd expect them. Well, the importance of picking up points at Prenton Park becomes ever more important. But we need to go down there and perform a lot better than we did certainly today in the last 2 away games. That's for sure.
You're not wrong. We will look ahead to all of those games in the news show, which will be here on Thursday. So I look forward to doing that one. Before then, we'll be back with the My Best 11 on Tuesday with Ben Harrison from the Tranmere Rovers Supporters Trust. Now, Ben, not Ban, he might be banned. I don't know. Ben can talk about a lifetime of following Tranmere and some of the stories that he's got to tell. From going home and away with Rovers, from being a director, from working with the Tranmere Trust, picks out some of his favourite games. It's a really fun interview to do with Ben, so look out for that. That's on next My Best 11 on Tuesday. We've also got My Best 11s coming in the near future with Richie Turney, who, of course, is the voice of Prenton Park. He's the man on the mic, reading the teams out and all that kind of thing. He's got some fun stories and a little bit of Rovers history and trivia to throw in there as well from Richie, so you'll look forward to that one. And there's one with Gareth Roberts coming very soon as well. But as I say, this has been a little bit of a trial run for a streaming, and I haven't advertised it anywhere, so if you missed it, then don't worry, it's going to be available as a full podcast anyway, but a little bit of a trial of a live streaming of a review. We'll hope to do a few more before the season's out. Won't be possible to do every week, but after some games, certainly it's something that we will try and do. But thank you very much for joining us, and we will speak to you with our My Best 11 on Tuesday.